Okay, today we're going to be looking at graphing absolute value inequalities, but let's start with just a quick review of graphing inequalities. All right, so let's start with this one here. Y is less than 2x plus 1. So we're just going to plot this out as if it were just a regular line. Okay, so start with the y-intercept, right? You start with this 1 on the y-axis, so that gives one of our points. And then our slope here is 2. So we're going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. We could also go down 2, back 1. All right, so that would be how we plot this out with a line. However, this is an inequality, so we need to do some shading here. And the first thing we need to determine is this line going to be dashed or solid? Because there is no line underneath, that means this inequality goes all the way up to this line but does not actually hit it. Okay, so we'll make that a dashed line. And then I've got a little chart here for you if you need it. So if it's less than or equal to, we're going to shade below the line. Or if it's greater than or equal to, we're going to shade above the line. So this is less than, so we're going to shade all over below the line. All right. Okay, moving on. Sometimes we got to do some solving here. So we want to get this equal to a positive 1y. So I'm going to need to divide by -2. Do it to one side, got to do it to the other. And we've just divided by a negative to solve an inequality. So we need to switch this sign. So now it's greater than or equal to. And we'll keep this as a fraction. -3 over 2x, and -4 divided by -2 is +2. And now we can just plot this out. So let's start as if it was a normal line. We're going to start with the y-intercept of +2. And now we're going to go up 1, 2, 3. We're going to go back to 1, 2 because it's negative. Or we can, of course, go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over to the right, 2. All right. And so now we can determine where we're going to be shading this. We have the line underneath. That means it's or equal to. So we're going to go ahead and make this a solid line. And it is greater than, right? And greater than means we shade above the line. So we're going to go on top of this line here. Okay. All right. Now we've got an absolute value to look at. So we're going to start, of course, looking at the vertex. We want to find the vertex. And let's just write out here the general equation for an absolute value function, which is y is equal to a x minus h plus k. And we should remember that the vertex is going to be hk. I'm running out of room there. hk. There we go. All right. And so remember, this is x minus h, or you can think about that as the opposite of h. So if this inside here is -2, we know that it's going to be +2. So it's like the opposite of this value. Okay. And then the k is pretty straightforward. There is no k here, so this is going to be 0. All right. So that is our vertex. So we can start with that. So we're going to go over 2, up 0, and there is our vertex right there. And now our a value is our slope. And so we're going to be going up 3 over 4. 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right there. Oops, I got ahead of myself. I started drawing it in. Over 4, there we go. And let's also go in the opposite direction as well, because we know all absolute value graphs will look like a V. So we're going to go 4 in the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And now we can go ahead and graph this out. Let's start with determining if the line is dashed or solid. There is no line underneath, so that means this is going to be a dashed line. Okay. My handwriting is not so great on here, so bear with me. All right, now we just have to determine if we're going to be shading above or below. This is y is less than, and less than we shade below. All right, so it's going to be everything underneath there. Okay. Ooh, whoops. Here we go. All right, so I've listed down some steps for graphing absolute value inequalities. So go ahead and pause your video and write these steps down. Step 1 is going to be to find the vertex. Step 2, determine the slope. Step 3, determine if the line is dashed or solid. And let's just review that really quick. If it's greater than or less than, it's going to be dashed. And if it is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, it's going to be a solid line. Okay? And number 4, graph, shade the graph. And we're going to shade above for greater than or equal to. And we're going to shade below for less than or equal to. Okay? So let's practice this a little bit more. We've got y is greater than or equal to -2 times the absolute value of x plus 3 minus 1. So let's follow our steps here. We want to first find the vertex. So let's do that. So the vertex, remember, it's like the opposite of this value. So if this is +3, our value is going to be -3. And then this one is straightforward. It's just -1. So here is our vertex at -3, -1. So let's get that out there. Go back 3, down 1. Okay, there's our vertex right there. And our slope is -2, right? Our slope is always our a value, so -2. So we're going to be going down 2 and over 1 in both directions. Okay, and now is it going to be a dashed or solid line? We have the line underneath here. This is greater than or equal to, so it is going to be a solid line. Put the arrows on there. Okay, and now we just need to shade in the graph. So this is y is greater than we shade above. All right, there we go. Okay, on these two, we're going to be doing the opposite. We're going to be filling in the absolute value inequality. Okay, so let's go ahead and leave some room for the absolute or for the inequality symbol. Let's go ahead and put our absolute value bars. Okay, now how do we start this? We're still going to follow these steps, okay? We want to find the vertex first, okay? So the vertex is right here, and that location is -2, +1, okay? And that's HK, all right? And if we remember, this is going to be the opposite on the inside here, so this is going to be +2, and this one is, the K value is straightforward, so that one is just going to be +1 out there. And now we can look at our inequality symbol. So we know, because we have a solid line, right, this is going to be, it's going to include it, so the line will be underneath. Now, is it going to be greater than or less than? Well, the shading is above, right? Which means it's going to be a greater than symbol. Okay? And let's just double check with the slope. It is a 1-to-1 ratio, right? We're going up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So our slope or our A value is 1. Okay? All right, moving on. Next one here, let's again start with our vertex, which is right here. This one's a little bit harder to see. I think I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so our vertex is right here, and that location would be 3, 1. So, okay, let's leave some room for our inequality symbol, our A value. Okay, so our H value is always the opposite, so that's going to be -3, and our K value is going to be 1. Now let's look for the slope. If it's not 1-to-1, it's definitely not a 1-to-1 ratio, because if it were 1-to-1, it would be going this way. Okay, we do see that this is a upside down V, so I know that the value is going to be negative, right? So let's follow our slope. We're going to be going down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. So it looks like that is our A value of -2 over 1. We don't really need to write that as a fraction. We don't need to write that over 1. So our A value is -2. And now we just need to determine our inequality symbol. The line is dashed, right? So we are not going to put the line underneath. And we're shaded above, right? So above, we're going to do a greater than symbol. But do not put the line underneath because it is dashed. All right? That's all I got for you guys. Need more help with this? Come see me on a Google Meet.